All right, guys, we're now going to take you through the little over 1,300 mile road trip we just did with this bad boy coming back from Louisiana in the 2025 Ram 1500 RHO. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous about making this trip, because you read all the stuff online, right? Everything online is real. People having issues, blah, blah, blah. I'll save you 15 minutes if that's all you care to come to watch. I had no problems. This thing was great. But if you're interested in seeing how this truck road trips, comfort, especially coming from a Raptor owner who had, I've had every generation Raptor, just came from a 21 and a 24 Raptor R. We have a Bronco Raptor now and a Gen 1 Raptor. So it's really great to have that comparison, especially in a long road trip in a truck like this. Also, like I mentioned before, I pay for these trucks with my hard-earned money, and I'm gonna give you honest feedback. This truck is gonna have to earn its respect in my book. I'm arguably a Ford fanboy, but I love what they've done for the value and price on this new Ram RHO, especially this Hurricane motor. And I know what a lot of people are saying, well, the TRX is better. TRX is a great engine, but I'm looking for a day-to-day truck, and I'm looking for something that tows trailers, and I'm not wanting 9 miles per gallon. And for the price, this is a bargain. It's really a bargain if you're in this market right now. So if this truck has any problems, you're gonna know about it. If this truck's great, I'll tell you about that too. But so far, we've been pretty happy with what we've seen. So let's get into this. Hey guys, gonna apologize, have to voice over on some of the audio here at the very beginning. We had a technical issue with our mics, but really loving, we're about to get in, start our road trip, liking the different apps and how it shows so much on the screen, YouTube apps and silly ones, even like our portable 12-volt refrigerator from IceCo. We're just trying to set up the different apps and just getting things placed. You can turn on your massaging seats for the lower and the upper. You can do them independently. I really like that. Lots of different settings. Here's another area where I feel like Ram does a great job, and it's just their switches with the vents and the slides for the rear view window and your panoramic sunroof. It's very intuitive, and it sounds kind of silly, but some of the different brands make it where it is not as easy as Ram does make this. Getting the profile set for our seating positions, got the mirror set, got the pedals all adjusted. Oh, another little thing I wanted to add. It's super cool to see the brushed aluminum pedals on the Ram. It's been a while since I've had like a muscle car or some kind of cool car that you have some neat looking pedals like that. But the amount of adjustability in this digital dashboard is just wild. You can make so many different changes to the analog. I personally like the old school look like that versus the digital display. We're going to reset our trip. You can see the truck at this point has 20 miles on the odometer, and we're going to reset this before we start our road trip and get on the road as we are leaving Mark Dodge Jeep here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I think everything's good and set to go. The heads-up display, all the different stuff I want to see is looking good. You can kind of see our hands-free driving is getting ready to start working. If you notice right here and you see where it's going orange or green flashing, when it's orange, basically the hands-free driving system is reading your eyes, and it's letting you know you better start looking ahead or it's going to start disabling your hands-free driving. And it's doing so by vibrating the seat to let you know, and as well as chimes going on in the interior. As long as you see the green lights going, it's good to go. Like, hands are off the steering wheel. Both hands are off the steering wheel right now. You can see it showing the hands-free driving on the left-hand part. And then there you go. You kind of see where it says, please look ahead, and there's the sensor at the middle of the steering wheel. As we start this trip, you can see we're about 84 miles in, 75 miles an hour. We're currently getting 13 miles per gallon instantaneously, and our trip is at about 13.7, which is not a home run incredible, but we'll see how this thing goes as the trip progresses and the engine breaks in. We're running 91 to 93 octane for every single tank we're going to put in this trip of this truck, just at least during break-in. We'll see how it is, and I know it recommends it, and we're going to try to stick with that if at all possible. So it's cool seeing the gauges. They look really nice going down the road. You can kind of see your coolant temps, trans temps, intake temps. Let's see. There's your horsepower, torque going down the road, voltage. There's your oil temps, oil pressure, coolant. There's your dipstick. These seats, as far as comfort, I mean, we got 100 miles in. The fact that we're gonna be doing a 1,300 mile trip, I should know pretty well if these seats are comfortable or not. It's definitely a more firm seating foam than our Navigator, but it feels pretty darn similar as far as comfort to what I would have said with my Gen 3 Raptor. It might be a touch stiffer than the Raptor seat foam. It's also a more comfortable seat for lumbar support and everything, so I like that. Other thing I'm super happy about is the heads-up display works awesome with polarized sunglasses. That is a big benefit to me. I haven't had many vehicles that the heads-up display works so decently with polarized sunglasses on, so that's cool. Kind of crazy, we're driving through hands-free, of course. It's like a floating bridge. You can see some destruction down here. I wonder if that's from prior hurricanes and stuff. Henderson Swamp here in Louisiana. This is wild. We've been going through this like, oh, look at how wild this is. That is crazy. It's like stumps and everything out here. I bet this just gets tore up during a hurricane. Pretty neat. Probably yeah, some dudes fishing. All right, let's do the 30-second method here. Look how cheap fuel is here. This is nuts. 23.93 gallons. Okay, let's see what we got for fuel economy. So computer said 14.7, 315 miles. We divide that by 23.9. Let's see, hand calculated. So assuming that the dealership filled up before we left to the top, computer said 14.7, hand calculated 13.9. We'll reset and redo the next part of the trip. Lights look cool on this thing. What better way to get a fill up? Put at Buc-ee's. Never been to one before. Kind of cool. Pretty crazy that you can get basically $1 off a gallon if you do this works thing. That's wild. All right, gonna do the 30-second method now. We'll see how close the hand calculated is. I've ran 93 now. We're in the third tank. Dealer confirmed they filled it up with 93. I'll be curious now. 22.8 gallons. Let's see what we got for hand calculated. Okay, we do our hand calculated 292.9 miles, 22.8 gallons, 12.85 miles per gallon. Hand calculated computer 13.8. Off about a mile per gallon, which is a bummer. We're gonna reset now. Want some jerky? Dude, check this out. This is insane. It's phenomenal. They got more over there. This is absolutely insane. Here we are, hands-free driving. This is incredible. I'm spoiled by this. I could do this all day long. It will, if you gotta watch, it's look at your eyes. So if like I look away for a second, it's gonna start freaking out. I'll start vibrating the seat. Let's see. There you go.
Jeez.
All right, you guys can kind of see how good the hands-free driving. We've got about 927 miles on the truck now. When we got the truck, it had 20 miles on it. So about 910 miles of the trip. But check this out on the screen here. Factory nav. I've never seen a factory nav that shows disabled vehicles, police, like Waze or Google. And we just had it show us a minute ago a disabled vehicle, and we can kind of see. I'll be curious if we see it on the highway up here in a minute. But it gives you the option of, saying, is there a disabled vehicle? But we've drove hundreds of miles now, hands-free. This works awesome. I have literally not had an issue yet of using the hands-free, as long as you're looking ahead. If you keep screwing around and take your eyes off, it's going to tell you look forward. And we're about to get in traffic here in a second, so we'll kind of see how well it works. I still am not super comfortable with it. I've never had like a Tesla or anything like that, so this is a little bit new for me. But of the hundreds of miles we've done in the last 3 days traveling back, this has worked great. To pass a car, all you have to do is hit your, now we're gonna get into traffic now. I'll be curious to see how good this is about to work. All right, I didn't touch the brakes or nothing. This just managed that whole thing. Now we're in a traffic jam. So this is gonna probably go down to to a dead stop here in a second. But I've not touched the brakes or the steering or anything, and we're now stopped on the highway. So Chrysler, Ram, their hands-free, this system works pretty awesome. Now we'll see how it works for start, stop, and back and forth and through traffic. But I mean, wouldn't you agree? Don't you think it works pretty good?
Yeah.
Has there been any time where you're like, all right, it's not working good, or feels kind of? No, there's not been any weird little mannerisms. I mean, it feels solid. I do find in a situation like this where we're on a highway, I'm going to add a little bit of distance on the steering wheel for the adaptive cruise to kind of, you know, on and off. But brake, throttle, hands completely off the system right now. Pretty impressive. Fuel economy, I think that this is going to be about a highway at the speeds I'm driving. I think this is going to be about a 14 mile per gallon truck on the highway at 75 to 80 miles an hour cruise, which if you've not had an RHO, TRX, or Raptor before, you'd say that's terrible. It's not great, but if I compare this to my Gen 2, Gen 3 Raptors, I would say this is probably about a mile or so per gallon lower at these speeds. But I'll look back at videos we did in the past, and I think we were getting like 13.5 to 15 miles per gallon on the highway driving at similar speeds with our Gen 2 and Gen 3 Raptors. The difference I would say is probably that fuel economy hit is that the TRX and RHO is always in all-wheel drive. So that's probably part of the fuel economy, whereas the Raptors, you could be driving in two-wheel drive. And I wish Ram made a feature where we didn't have to have these trucks in all-wheel drive all the time. But so far, I've been pretty impressed. The comfort in this thing, everything about it has been really awesome. For the next leg of the trip, we posted up in Franklin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. Pretty nice little hotel downtown. Really cool place to stay. I wasn't super hip on leaving my truck with valet, but unfortunately at this hotel, we had no other choice. But it also gave us the opportunity to hear the exhaust and it coming up. The truck looks really nice. All right, just did the 30-second method here. It's the second Bucky stop we've made on this trip. Only ran premium this entire trip. We have 17.4 gallons. Let's see what we get hand calculated. All right, hand calculation for the next trip. We had 222 miles, 17.4 gallons, 12.76 miles per gallon. I typically do the 30-second method on every fill up, and I'm noticing we're typically about 3/4 to 1 mile per gallon off. We reset our trip and we will go to the next journey. It's a little less than what I would have hoped, but I've been cruising, guys, at 75 to 80 miles an hour, and we were in some hills at this point as well. Not great, but also not terrible. There we go. 1,000 miles on this thing. Kind of see we're going downhill. You're never going to get 20 miles per gallon on this thing unless you're going downhill. And it's still like best it could get going downhill. All right, we're on the final stretch. Got about, what do we got, 150 miles or so. 2 hours left on the trip. As you can see, hands-free driving. Smooth, no issues at night, during the day. I will tell you one thing, the headlights on this thing are incredible. In the bright mode, they're ridiculous. Way brighter than any vehicle I've ever had before, including the Bronco Raptor, the Raptor R. They're really good. And the fog lights on this, I don't know how good they're gonna be off-road, but they're really good just for driving on the road. You can really see it's got a good flood. Not a long like beam, but a decent flood. So you can kind of see that is what our trans temp has pretty much been running at the whole time. I've seen as high as 181 and as low as 171. Intercooler temps, intake air temp, coolant temps, that's pretty darn consistent. And that's from 19 degrees outside all the way to, I've seen, I think we're at a high of about 50, 60 degrees. But that's pretty consistent with the temperatures we've seen. A little bit further on this last leg of the trip, we had 27.28 gallons, 373 miles. We got a lot closer to hand calculated this time, guys. 14 miles per gallon computer, 13.7 hand calculated. So that's good to see. We're on the final stretch of the trip now. We're going to reset the tripometer. Gosh, I think we're about 100 miles away. We're going to ended up going a little bit faster this last part as we'll be getting into Michigan and we cruise a little quicker. All right, we're on the final stretch. just making it into Michigan. Now we can put the hammer down. So if you want to get the advertised fuel economy, if you drive at 60 miles an hour, I think you can get 16, 18 miles per gallon. I've been seeing that pretty consistently. But if you drive 70 to 80, from what I can see, the best you're going to get is about 14, 15, probably lowest 11, 12. But if you're going to get 16 miles per gallon, you got to be doing about 60. 30-second method here. All right. 10.9 gallons. Okay, 120.2 miles divided by 10.894. Let's see what we are hand calculated. All right, so last fill up, computer 12, hand calculated 11. Total trip, 1,324 miles at 13.8 miles per gallon. So what's my thought on this? Here's what I would say. I've driven a lot of TRXs, and if I did similar driving, wintertime, that's the key. Wintertime, you always lose 1.5, maybe 2 miles per gallon with the different additives that add into the fuel. But I would say I'd typically be around 10, 11. I'm finding most of these tanks are between 12.5 and 13.5 miles per gallon. This last tank, I was driving like an imbecile. I was really going fast, and I was trying to show my father-in-law a few launches, so I was getting on it pretty good. Wind is bad. Wintertime, driving fast. What I would say, how does this compare to my Raptor, Raptor R, Bronco Raptor? I would say it's about a mile, mile and a half per gallon worse in the exact same driving scenario on the highway as my 17, 19, and 21 F-150 Raptor. If I'm getting 13.5 miles per gallon on this, I'd get about 15 on the Raptor. With that being said, it'd be interesting to see what it is in the city. The other thing is, how does it compare to the Raptor R? I think the Raptor R is about a mile and a half per gallon less, as well as the TRX. So I'm not disappointed, honestly. The fact that we did 1,300 miles, 13.8 miles per gallon, breaking it in, wintertime, trucks in, four-wheel auto. I'm going to do some driving here soon, and I'm not even put premium in it. I'm going to try 87. Really curious. They recommend 91. I'm not going to tell anybody else to do this, but I'm going to try it for the channel, and I'm curious to see if we see any loss of fuel economy with that. All right, so what's my takeaway? 1,350 mile road trip in the 25 Ram 1500 RHO. I almost bought a 24 final edition TRX from these guys a few years back, so I figured if there's ever an opportunity in the future to get another vehicle, I wanted to get them that opportunity. We ended up getting the Raptor R earlier this year, and that was a really fun vehicle. But I kind of want to try this RHO. I think this is a really high value truck. So here's my takeaway after this road trip. Road comfort. This hands-free driving, absolutely impressed on the highway. I didn't notice one flinch, one weird little thing. It worked awesome. Turn signals, it worked to initiate the lane change. Stayed very centered. I know I read some guys talking about hovering to the left or not. I never noticed anything that was different than my driving, but maybe I'm a terrible driver, so it's better than me. That's very possible. Fuel economy, I'd say I'd put it right between a Raptor R and Raptor standard. It gets about a mile, mile and a half per gallon less from what I saw than my 19 and 21 Raptor with the 3.5 high output. With that being said, I want to include this caveat. This thing's in break-in. This is in winter, so you have winter blend fuel, which gets you less fuel economy. Typically, you get a mile, mile and a half per gallon less. And this thing's in full-time all-wheel drive or 4 auto. That also impacts the fuel economy. Interior comfort going down the road. I have to say, I'm impressed. All the ergos, the buttons, the layouts. There's a lot to learn on these things. They're super high tech. There's so many features you can change on the screens. I'm still learning that passenger display. I'm still struggling to see the value in it. I do like that the passenger can send directions from the secondary display to the main display. I like that. The other thing is, this is the first factory nav I've had in a vehicle that I actually think is decent. This thing will show if there's obstructions in the road, if there's a car stalled, if there's cops, like a Waze, like a Google Maps. I thought that was really cool. All the directions seems to overlay Google and Waze. The system worked good. It put it in the heads-up display. I like that. The power, this thing's a beast, man. The power is almost dead split between Raptor and Raptor R. I can't imagine once you get a tune on these things, they're gonna be knocking on the door of TRX and Raptor R power. Smoothness. Do I love the sound of a TRX and a Raptor R? Absolutely. With that being said, if I'm covering distance on the highway, I'm not looking to hear a motor screaming, super loud exhaust. I want quiet. This thing's incredible. When the engine starts on, sometimes I swear, I don't even know if it started because it's so smooth. The other thing that's interesting about this engine, and we're gonna have a towing video on this thing real soon with the enclosed trailer, is this makes power a lot different than the 3.5 EcoBoost. The 3.5 I find has maybe a little bit stronger low end power below 2,500 RPMs, but above 2,500 RPMs, it feels pretty noticeably stronger, especially when you get above 4,500 RPMs. If you're just wide open throttle, this motor mimics, in my opinion, how the Raptor R performance is. That motor just rips all the way to redline. That's what this thing does. It's nothing against the 3.5 high output EcoBoost. I think it's a phenomenal motor. I've loved them. I've had a lot of luck with them. But this makes more power like the Raptor R, whereas the 3.5 EcoBoost and the TRX make more similar power, more low end, less top end. The other thing I want you guys to recognize in this channel, if you've watched my channel, I'm arguably a Ford fanboy. I mean, we got two Fords in the garage right now, Lincoln and a Bronco Raptor, and I got a Gen 1 Raptor. I'm not paid by any of these manufacturers. I buy it with my hard-earned money. So if this truck's a piece of crap, I'm gonna let you know it. But I literally, guys, had no problems. I don't have any check engine lights. I didn't have any issues with Uconnect. I didn't have any issues with misfires or weird driving mannerisms. Nothing. 1,350 flawless miles driving home from Mark Dodge in Louisiana. I really can't think of a complaint. The biggest things is me learning this new operating system, and the buttons are laid out a little differently. The other thing that I'm really happy to see, this is the first heads-up display vehicle I've had that I can wear polarized sunglasses and actually see the heads-up display through the window. So that's a huge, huge plus for me, which I'm happy. The headlights on this thing, incredible. The high beams, absolutely amazing, and the low beams are fine too, but I just noticed the high beam is like really good. Powertrain, valve train noise, really quiet, really smooth. The Ram app seems to be pretty decent. I wish I didn't have to put the code in each time if you want to do a function, but it still works pretty decent. These tires, this is the second time I've actually gotten these tires. I had these on the Gen 1 Raptor. I think they're pretty decent. Just the overall looks of this thing, it's just got a mean look. How they changed the headlight design, a little bit of fascia changes, I think it's awesome. I'm really glad we ended up going with the decals on the hood. I think that looks really sweet. Just kind of show you guys just some general things in the interior. I found putting my elbow here and here was pretty comfortable. I didn't notice any issues there. Sound systems sound really good. I feel like this is where Ram always does a great job, is in the interior and the sound. But you can kind of see the seating. It's still dirty from getting home on the trip. I need to get some running boards on this thing. It is obviously pretty tall, 1,356 miles. Overall, guys, I'm really happy. I think this is a great refresh. Does it sound like a TRX? Absolutely not. Does it sound like a Raptor R? Absolutely not. But everything besides the idling sound or just the cold start sound, wide open throttle sound, this thing sounds awesome. It really sounds great. I have no issue there. It sounds great, especially in between shifts. It sounds good. I went with the bed utility group just because I can use these connection points for putting dirt bikes and whatnot in the bed. The one thing I am kind of bummed about, I wish that it actually had a rear-facing camera in the cargo area, just for when you're going down the road, make sure if anything is moving around. But I'm really happy with this thing, guys. We got a bunch of RHO videos coming soon. I'm gonna be doing Raptor versus RHO on our mile per gallon loop here soon. I've got a ton of videos in the past of my Gen 3 Raptor, Raptor R, and my Bronco Raptor towing this exact same trailer. So it'll really give us a good comparison. I do believe this thing is gonna rev. It's gonna shift, I think, up a gear. It's probably gonna be, if I had to guess, going down the road, towing this trailer, which is not super heavy, but it does push a lot of air. I do think this thing's gonna be probably sitting in like 7th gear on the highway, which is not a big deal. The Raptor and Raptor R typically would be in 8th or 9th gear, 1 or 2 gears up from 10th gear overdrive. But I'll be curious to see what this thing does in fuel economy. 70 going down the highway today was not great, 12 miles per gallon max. So I think towing, if we get 8 with this, I'll be kind of surprised. But anyhow, guys, I hope you liked this video, and a lot more fun to come on the RHO. Thanks for watching.